I really didn't play much until my senior year and did very well my senior year. I was probably, well, I don't remember the exact number, but somewhere in the top 10 in the county in scoring. I was a running back in high school. I also was a place kicker in high school, so um, I kicked extra points. But I enjoyed playing there and looking at Clary and some of the things we did. I mean, he was, very highly regarded all over the state, as an excellent football coach. And he pretty much was. I mean, with the X's and O's. What he lacked was people skills, primarily with the African American community. He really didn't give a lot of African American players who were excellent athletes an opportunity to play. They always said that, he kept enough African American players to win. So he knew the ones to keep, and there were others who he probably should have kept but didn't keep.
So, like, the bar was much higher for black kids who were okay, maybe not the greatest, versus white kids who were okay. They got a pass, basically.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. So that was, one of the issues, that we had. In fact, as I was growing up, a lot of the elders in the community would tell me to watch out for him. And when I got to high school and was eligible to play, they warned me. They said, you got to be, on your P's and Q's the whole time with him because if you give him the slightest excuse, he will not play you. Yeah. And that happened to a lot of people
So that was just known throughout the community that he was tougher.
on us particularly. And the worst experience I had with him occurred during my senior year when I got a letter from I believe it was Bradley University, a recruiting letter. And he didn't give the letter to me. I found out about the letter because there was a football manager who used to pick his mail up every day in the office, in the high school office, and take it to the gym office and give him the letters. And I ran into this young man one day, and he told me that I had a letter from Bradley University. And I'm like, okay. So he told me that Clary had the letter. So I went and I asked Clary for the letter. And he told me, he says, you can't get into that school, so you don't need the letter. I then was talking to a few people, and Gene Henningberg, who was one of the few African American teachers at Montclair High School at that time, overheard my conversation with, some of my peers. And she got to be very, insulted because we weren't getting the mail, or at least I didn't get that particular item. And she went and she grabbed a history teacher. She had confidence in that she could confide in her. And they actually went down to the boys' gym office and got the letter. But that was the worst experience that I had with Clary Anderson.
Do you know that he was keeping letters from other kids, or were there any other letters that he kept from you?
I didn't find out about any other specifically, but it was fairly common knowledge that was an occurrence that was pretty common. So
How did you deal with that at the time? I mean, because I know you knew he was racist because of what the elders said to you, but
well, I'll tell you, one of the things that happened after that incident was, I was a baseball player as well in high school. And I had started my sophomore year and my junior year. I was an outfielder. And my senior year, I went out for the team and I didn't get a uniform, you know. And I went to him, I says, am I going to get a uniform? Because, I mean, he was handing out uniforms and they were going to sophomores and um, juniors. And he said, well, I really don't think this is going to be your sport this year. So I ended up not playing baseball in my senior year in high school.
Was this retaliation because of the football thing?
I think so, yes. I mean, and that's my personal opinion. I really don't have any evidence to corroborate that, but that was it. Like I said, I had started as a sophomore and a junior, and then my senior year, where I thought I was gonna, really have an outstanding season that year, he basically cut me by not giving me a uniform. He never told me I was cut, but when I wasn't getting a uniform and sophomores and freshmen were getting uniforms, I said, no, I'm out, so I went out for track, because I figured if I ran, that would help me with my college football career.
Did anybody ever really confront him?
Not many people were used to standing up to Clary Anderson. I mean, he was to sit here to try and liken him to another personality. I would say it was close to Donald Trump, to be honest with you. I mean, and
Really?
he pretty much ran Montclair High School as a phys ed teacher and the chair of the phys ed department and the head football coach, the head baseball coach, the head hockey coach. I mean, he did all of those things. And nobody challenged him back in those days, because he was successful at all of that stuff.
Now, obviously, you went off to Wagner, studied history there,
Yes.
were super active in that community. Then you came back here. Did you have any interaction with him when you came back and started working for the town?
Yeah, actually, the one interaction I had with him after that was he was at Montclair State. He had left Montclair High School and moved on to Montclair State as the head football coach there. I had some things that we were trying to do in the rec department, and I went up to Montclair State, and I actually had a meeting with him. And strangely enough, it was a very productive meeting and very cordial.
Did you get the sense that he maybe had some regret?
Uh, yes and no. I didn't really trust him at that point any longer, but it was what it was at that point. I was a very young man, and it was like water under the bridge. It's gone. I was very motivated when I went to Wagner because there were about 20 black students that were upperclassmen when I went there in September 1968. And in my class, there were, thinking maybe 60 African American students. So there was a lot of backlash from some of the white students who were on campus at that time because they felt like we were invading their lily white campus. We had all kinds of fights and all kinds of stuff going on because we weren't going to be pushed around, and most of the guys that were there, we were athletes, football players, basketball players, strong young men. We weren't going to be bullied and pushed around. So we had to deal with that kind of environment. But I get up to Wagner every once in a while now. In fact, a year ago I was there and I talked to one of the history classes that was focused on civil rights. And they asked me to come up and talk about my experiences at Wagner and what we did because 27 of us got expelled from Wagner while we were there for demonstrating. We eventually got back in school. We had to go to a federal appeals court in Brooklyn to get back into school.
What was the demonstration about? Can you take us through, some of the details of that story?
Sure. Basically, what we were looking for, and I say we, I'm talking about the African American students. We had an organization called Black Concern, and we had issued a list of demands we presented to the administration. We wanted increased Black student enrollment. We wanted African American studies, more financial aid for the increased enrollment, and a couple other things. We presented these demands to the administration and we tried to get meetings to discuss the items that we thought were relevant, and they didn't really want to meet with us or they refused to meet with us. So at some point, we decided that we were going to take over the main administration building on campus because at that time, they had what they called College Day, where they brought all of the prospective students up to introduce them to the school. So we decided that we would go into the main administration building and take that over so that we would be in there during College Day. So at that point, the administration decided that we can't have these folks occupying a building on Saturday. We went in there on a Tuesday night and we ended up staying in there about 2 or 3 days. And we did a lot of telephone conversations with the administration, negotiating. So on Thursday night, we decided that we would come out because they agreed to most of the things that we had on our list of demands. So we vacated the building. And that Saturday, the SDS, the Students for Democratic Society, which was all white, they decided that they were going to support us and our demands. That Saturday during College Day, they interrupted a lot of the activities that they had, scheduled for new students and their parents. And we went back to school on Monday and they reneged on a lot of the things that we had agreed on. They says, "Oh no, you guys, you didn't negotiate in good faith, and we that wasn't us." you
Yeah.
know, we
It was the well-meaning white kids.
Yeah. So they said, okay, so we're going to suspend you. So we went to the dean's office because we had been trying to get a hold of the president who was out of the country. Wagner had a campus in Bregenz, Austria, and he had been over in Austria. We wanted to have an audience with him to discuss the fact that, we had agreed to a lot of things and then they reneged on them and whole 9 yards. So we went to the dean of the college. We went to his office and we sat in there. There were 27 of us. We just sat there, and he sat there with us and we talked and made small talk really because we didn't negotiate with him at all. But the dean of students came by and decided that we were holding him against his will. He gave us an ultimatum and he told us that we needed to release him. And we're like, we're not holding him. He gave us a deadline for releasing, quote unquote, the dean. And when he did not get up and go out into the hallway to tell him that we weren't holding him there, the dean of students expelled us right there
Hmm.
on the spot. He says, okay, all 27 of you that are in that room, you're no longer students here. So it was a weird time because that was the same time where those students were shot at Kent State University in Ohio. That was the same semester. So a lot of schools terminated that spring semester very early because of all of the unrest that was going on nationally. But we got expelled and then we spent the whole summer following that, uh, going back and forth to court in Brooklyn and Staten Island and all over the place trying to get back into school. And we ended up
Hmm.
getting readmitted. We had some NAACP lawyers who donated their services and they came to our aid.
Wow, that is just incredible. We're living in a time now where there's a ton of civil unrest, lots of different types of
Hmm.
protesting. Obviously, we just had everything that happened in Minnesota. Do you have a message for young people today based on what you lived through in terms of either what they're doing tactically or how they're thinking about just the world?
No. Yeah, I just wish that the young people of today had the desire and the motivation that we had back in the 60s and the 70s about challenging the status quo and not accepting things that they accept today. I can't go back, but I just wish I was 21 or 22 years old and had an opportunity to address some of the things that are on the social calendar now.